Good evening, or I guess good morning, everyone, in APJ. Matt Vandenbeld here, vCloud Matt, here again for APJ office hours. So I thought today it might not, be a long one again today. So there has been some changes coming up. We are going to be going to 2 times weekly for office hours. So that means we're going to be doing the Americas slash EMEA together, and we will be keeping this APJ one, so absolutely don't worry about this if you're watching the APJ region. We may also cut down perhaps some of the ones going up to YouTube, depending on kind of where our conversation is, just to make the YouTube page a little more streamlined. I appreciate everybody's feedback on that if they do. Make these office hours afterwards and see some value and want us to keep doing that. That would be good to know, or I guess either way would also be good to know. So we're coming off of Dell Technology World last week. Some fairly major announcements there. And I was there, so I was doing some booth duty at what we call Cloud City, which is a really cool thing that our marketing team has put together. That this is the second time we ran it. The first time we ran it, I also did some booth duty at VMworld. So for those that were at VMworld Americas last year, anyway, we had it. We had it running there. It was a little bit off to the side last year. This time we were at Dell Technology World. We were right in the middle of the action, and like I said, there was a lot of cool stuff that was going on last week at Dell Technology World. By far, for me, the best or the coolest announcement, or the most pertinent to me in my field anyway, is the VMware Cloud on Dell EMC. So no longer do you need to kind of go to the public cloud to get the benefit of VMware Cloud, which I guess is kind of cool. I mean, it has the hybrid world story that private cloud is still a cloud. It looks like we're joined here by Clement, who just snuck in. Clement, did you want to say hi to everybody?
Hi Matt, how's it going?
Good. I have to make sure I call everybody out that pops in. So, like I said, I was just talking about Dell World last week, and so VMware Cloud on Dell EMC. Sorry, I keep stumbling over that. Is like I said, very cool. It's a VX Rail, VX Rack. There's going to be, I think there's only going to be 2-3 options when it first launches second half this year, and then going to expand on that obviously as it goes forward. But I think it's actually a really cool thing. We had one on the show floor next to us, kind of thing. Again, I talked about this a little bit in our America's office hours, and I don't try not to cut out the APJ audience and make them watch the America's one, but it was a very different audience at Dell Technology World. It was. I've been in the software industry for quite a long time now. I used to be a server guy. That's where I got kind of my start in the enterprise space, and but it's been a really while since. I still build my own PC, so I can still retain my nerd card, but it was amazing to me that people were way more interested in the physical rack itself than the operational interface or any of the software that went on top of it, which to me was kind of interesting. And it's just particular, I guess, the audience at Dell Technology World. But essentially, the interface for VMware Cloud on Dell EMC is the exact same interface it is for VMware Cloud on AWS. Exact same procedures. We manage it. We update it. We troubleshoot or we remediate it when issues arise. Same support type thing with chat and all these kinds of things. And what's kind of cool is we do have our demos that we ran in the booth last week available at least to us online. And so I was going to kind of go through and hopefully it's going to show some of the slides of what it actually looks like here. And as you can see here, this is our cloud services portal, and right to the left is our VMware Cloud on AWS, and right here is VMware Cloud on Dell EMC. Same portal launches it, right? You can actually walk through this, and this is actually how you would go upon, ordering one or creating one. So you just click the add locations. Unfortunately, this demo kind of goes over some of the selections you're going to have here, and I think that's probably because it's a predefined list now, and they weren't quite exactly sure what it all was going to look like, so they kind of obscured it. But it's good to highlight here that, of course, you got to meet the power requirements, temperature requirements, network connectivity, and floor space, obviously, because we're delivering something physical to your location. You got to be ready for it. You go in and you tell us where to ship the thing, what do you want the SDC to be named, who the contact name is, and you hit save and finish.
And Matt,
Yeah, sure.
are you sharing your screen? I can't see anything on the
Oh, I'm
screen.
not sharing it on Zoom. I apologize. I'm doing this on Twitch.
Okay.
Let me do that right now. Share main screen. Share. There we go. Now Clement can follow
That's
along
better.
as well.
Thank you.
So, as you can see here, then it goes from the order created to the order processed and shipped, and then live. And so, of course, this is a expedited kind of look at this, but it aims to be pretty quick on the delivery and such. Of course, a lot of factors will go into this, and then some of the details are still being worked out. So don't quite take this as gospel right now. But as it looks right now, someone's going to come and deliver this into your data center and hook it up for you. So somebody, either that be VMware PSO or Dell EMC resources or another partner or whatever, somebody will actually do this and plug it in. And then once you get to that point, it's live, it's hooked up, and here's your vSphere client. All right, so here it's highlighting the H6 tab for some reason, but again, it's just like everything else, hosts and clusters. There's your vCenter. You click on your locations, and this is kind of a cool new screen that we've added in as part of this. And you click on the new one that you ordered, and then this is kind of showing you that there's some critical alerts that are being shown here and some intermittent network connectivity, and it's kind of highlighting that this is because we're actually doing maintenance in the environment. So again, this highlights the point of, and you can see here that you can actually select the maintenance schedule. But you can see here we're actually going through and performing this maintenance for you. So no longer do you have to stay up late on a Sunday night to kind of do your patching or whatever have you. This is all fully managed by us. And then again, when you look at the portal, here it is, just right next to VMware Cloud on AWS. There's really no other place you need to go. You can go directly to your vCenters if you so desire. It depends on networking, stuff like that. But it's just really kind of highlighted that this is the exact same service that is offered on AWS. It's just now on Dell and EMC hardware in your physical data center, which I think is pretty cool. But I might be biased, and I don't know. Clement, you might be biased too. But what do you think of that announcement?
It looks really good, actually. The interface itself looks very schmick. I like it. I don't want to skip ahead, but I'm already thinking about connectivity options and how to integrate the two environments together, which is going to be very interesting for me.
Yeah. So what's cool is we actually put a VeloCloud box in there for our management. And I think there's probably some discussion and some plans going forward around how that's going to look going forward. But so that's how we connect our management infrastructure, which to me is really cool. Again, we're using our own kind of technology, and go from there. And we just had a question in Twitch hands that just joined. Is this vCloud? Well, yes, it's essentially. Okay, so Rick said, and this is a good question to ask, because there is a lot of confusion out there right now around. Okay, so there's VMware Cloud on AWS, there's VMware Cloud on Dell EMC, there's AWS Outposts, and there's AWS Outposts for vSphere. I can't remember that exact name for the AWS one. We talked about a little bit less. So essentially, yes, this is the exact, like I said, the exact same offering as VMware Cloud on AWS, but it's on-prem on Dell EMC hardware. And like I said, the interfaces are the exact same. We manage it. You have the exact same permissions model that you do in AWS. You can provision machines to it. All of the same rules apply to this as they do on the VMware Cloud on AWS. Now the one that the Outposts, which is kind of AWS on-prem, is AWS's hardware being delivered to your data center, which is the same ones that we're using right now, the i3s and R5s potentially. I think they're only shipping with i3s out the gate. And then you're going to have two options in that. The two options you're going to have is you can use it to run the Amazon stack which their first offerings are going to be EC2 and EBS, and then they're going to be expanding upon that. Or you can run VMware Cloud on that hardware too, which is kind of, and again, to throw another name at you, there's what we call Project Dimension that we announced last year, which is us managing on more than just the Dell EMC hardware. Is kind of throwing this managed service offering out there for people like AWS and stuff like that. So again, I appreciate the question because it gave us a good chance to, to clarify where it is. But I kind of think that the main message we're kind of getting across is that, on-prem, in the cloud, you're starting to see that convergence of public cloud offerings and private cloud offerings really mishmashing together, which is really, making some really cool stuff. And actually, and again, I talked about this on Monday, but it was like, or Tuesday, but it was like, Clement, maybe you're in the same boat as I am, but I remember this, talking about hybrid cloud for like the last 10 years, give or take. And, did we have hybrid cloud? I mean, I guess kind of, depending on the definition of it. But now I truly actually feel like we have a hybrid cloud.
Yeah, no, you can really visualize that. I mean, that screenshot, that screen that you're on at the moment, really sums it all up. You've got all your data centers up the top tabs there, data centers, where it be on-premises private cloud or on AWS, and edge locations. I guess that's a future feature that will come up with Project Dimension, as you mentioned. But yeah, it's all in the same user interface that you can see. It's fantastic.
Yeah, and I think it's good. But you're also seeing this merging of what was only available in the public cloud now coming to the private cloud. So we announced RDS on vSphere, right? So these all these services that used to be I had to go and sign up to public cloud to leverage are moving in, and then we're taking our private cloud kind of and moving it out, and yeah, I mean, and you're right, Rick. There's a little bit of abstractions on abstractions, but what this means is that you can literally run this VM anywhere you really want to. Whatever your workload is, you can decide I want to run it on the edge. I want to run it in VMC on AWS in Sydney or in Ireland, or I want to run it in my data center here in Seattle. I don't know, right? But if I so choose, I can now move it between them, which I think is really kind of cool. This also kind of goes in line with the next thing that we announced at Dell Technology World, which was kind of really surreal to me, and I'm sure everybody's heard it and seen it now. Is the CEO of Microsoft, the CEO of Dell, and the CEO of VMware up on stage together, announcing VM. So again, we need to put the guardrails around this announcement as well. So there is VMware Cloud Foundation on Azure. So this is not VMware Cloud. Okay, it is not a VMware Cloud managed service. This is delivered via a couple partners now. Cloud Simple, I think, is one, and I'm blanking on the other one. VirtuStream. Thank you, VirtuStream, who is getting that together and offering that as a partner offering on Azure. All right, so it's really, so again, now you can run vSphere workloads in native vSphere format on Azure clouds, which I think they're only have 3 out of the gate, 2 in the U.S. and the other one I think is in the Netherlands. I heard that today potentially. They just said somewhere Europe, but Netherlands seems like a decent location for it. But to really put some guardrails around that, that won't show up here. So you won't be able to see the, if we go back a few screens here, or maybe it's forward a few screens. I should know my own demo. I did this all last week. Yeah, sorry, there it was. I went by it. You will not see VMware, or what do they call it? VMware Solutions on Azure or something like that. This will not be in here. But yeah, Rick, to your point, and sorry, Clement, just if you follow along or somebody in the Twitch chat I'm chatting with here as well, that, there is no refactoring here, right? There's, and I think that the VMware VM is the industry standard for a VM. I think we can all safely say that. I think that that's not me being a homer. I think that that's an accurate statement that the majority of virtual machines are running on VMware virtual machines. And yes, moving it to Azure data centers or moving it to AWS data centers or IBM Cloud has theirs or any of these OVH ones that used to be vCloud Air, you can just move them. You don't have to deal with that headache of, okay, now I got to convert it to an EC2 and figure out what happens once I do that. Which I think is really cool. And then, we're continuing to build that story up there into the new world, which I guess is another demo we can go and show here as well, which is another one that I kind of like to look at of the modern applications, right? So, a lot of this stuff is good for, and I'll quote Naran even Chen again, a vintage application, not traditional, not legacy. This is really meant for kind of some of that kind of development with tools and existing applications, which is good. And like you say, Rick, it's this is stuff that real people find out there is that my manager says I got to be in the cloud. That you don't even really know what that means. But the easiest way to do that for sure is to not have to modify any of it, to just be able to move to the cloud. But we're also, moving into that, and I've struggled with this term. We got into a little bit of debate earlier, and actually, Clement, I would love to get your impression of this too, to get maybe some of the APJ region thoughts in there about. I'm not sure I love the word. That's not a word, I guess. The descriptor cloud native applications, because I don't think cloud native applications are now cloud native. I think, microservices developed or something like that is more apt. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, interestingly, I had a similar question. I was down at AWS Summit in Sydney when just last week, and one of the customers came up and actually said exactly the same thing. And when we were using the terms like cloud native and so forth, and mixing that together with native AWS services, I think there's a lot of confusion as to what that means. I think cloud native is more the aspect of being able to be a primary cloud application, such as microservices, and being able to operate in that way and be able to be immutable, being able to deploy applications on the fly and being the same, and being able to do all the versioning, all the cool stuff that comes with cloud native. And the term native AWS services, for instance, or native cloud services is different. And I think that's what, in my mind anyway, what refers to SaaS offerings from the cloud.
Yeah, I think you make a good point there. Maybe cloud native apps has become as ambiguous as DevOps. Right? Everybody said I need to do DevOps, and it's like, well, DevOps isn't actually a thing, really. You can't buy DevOps. You can buy a series of products that might help you do DevOps, but the whole cloud native applications can run in a private data center. It's just kind of, to me, a different way, like you mentioned, of developing the structure of the application. That's, I guess, non-traditional, but I guess it's the best term we have now. So I guess we can kind of relatively stick with it until we can force a change. And I'm not exactly sure what I want to call it, because not everything that's cloud native will involve microservices necessarily. I don't know. Anyway.
The line is getting grey. I mean, even the point of DevOps, that doesn't really need to only apply to cloud native apps. I mean, that could really, for instance, the whole idea of CI/CD pipelines and having unit testing, and that is not really confined just to that microservice environment.
Yeah, and there's so many ways of doing microservices and these deployments, and I'm kind of walking through, one of the things that we're working on and developing is our VMware Cloud PKS environment. PKS was announced, I think, it was a VMworld. Can't remember which one it was. I think it was think it was US. Anyway, it's actually Pivotal Container System, but the K is for Kubernetes, which again, because we already had a PCS, or PCF. No, we had a PCS too for the Pivotal Cloud stuff. Well, stuff wasn't the actual S, but I think it was Pivotal Cloud Services or something. Anyway, PKS is our Kubernetes in the cloud. We'll just put it that way. So, and this is a conversation to have, and it's good that you kind of bring up, the AWS stuff, because what we get a lot is customers say, well, we need to be cloud native, so I got to put everything into AWS. And I say, well, number one, just putting an already existing VM workload or existing application and just throwing it on an EC2 VM does not make it cloud native. It just makes it running in the cloud. And over and above that, if you want to do that, you don't got to go to AWS native. I mean, that's an option. They have their own Kubernetes engine and container engines and all those kinds of things. But VMware's got that too. You don't got to go away from all of the tools and products and stuff that you kind of already are relatively familiar with to get that type of development system and applications going. And I think it's really a kind of an important point of emphasis that I like to make anyway, is that, VMware, we may have been a little bit slow in that world, and maybe we didn't adapt as quickly as we should have, but we're getting there. And not only are we getting there, we made a good acquisition with Heptio, and now we're one of the leaders in that space, because the guy that actually invented Kubernetes is now a VMware employee. So, kickstarted us back into the game.
So Matt, what is the latest GA update for Cloud PKS? Is that available as a preview for our customers already, or?
So it is in the portal. So it is in here. We don't have access to it. I was actually just looking at this earlier because I'm like, oh, you know what? I'd love to actually kind of show this off. So I'm going to put that on my list of upcoming webinars to do in the future, hopefully. And actually, I just want to get access for myself, honestly, to play around with it. But it's always good when you got a good business case for it. But when you click on the link, it does go to a real page to sign up for it, kind of thing. So I believe it's probably available in early access, or kind of what we call experimental. I know that a lot of the hitch for it to go live was the NSXT adoption, which we've now kind of gotten, which we've migrated to now. So there should be fully functioning available now, as far as I know. But I could be wrong on that, just to preface that kind of off the top. But I believe you can click on the trial and start it out today. So, which will update you next week, because again, I really want to get that button working so I can play around with it, because like I said, going through these demos, it's painfully easy to set this up. To create yourself a cluster, a Kubernetes cluster, out on the web. It's funny that they make you click the refresh button in a demo. I'm not sure I'd actually want to. Anyway, but you can see here, yeah. I mean, it's really kind of just that simple to go through and create this Kubernetes cluster running on VMware Cloud on AWS. So, or I believe you can also deploy this to your own data centers if you want. It's kind of a SaaS offering for PKS. But again, don't quote me on any of that stuff. I'm still going to work my way through it. But yeah, I mean, I think that, I'd like to kind of just demonstrate that, we are a player in the Kubernetes space. We do have the cool products and features, and we're continuing to grow even our own public cloud infrastructure. And, I really think that we can, give, your AWS and Azure a run for their money for the workloads they run. I mean, AWS will be a big ask, and Azure is pretty big, but I think we can do it. Again, I have a lot of stock, so it benefits me for this to happen. So maybe not a lot of stock, but I got a vested interest.
You gave it away there, Matt, already.
Yeah,
Too late to take it
I
back.
know, but I literally have a vested interest, I guess, in the success of this company. But I also believe in it and stuff. I'm not the kind of individual that does things strictly for the cash. I guess I'm lucky that way, but I do like where we're taking the company, and do admit that in years past we weren't necessarily container friendly, and it took us a little while to get in the game, but I think we're in the game now. And other stuff, even like Wavefront, which we're going to be doing. We're going to be doing a webinar in the APJ time zone next week. So next Tuesday at this time, but on Tuesday we'll be doing a Wavefront webinar, which is actually a really cool product. Again, this is kind of another acquisition that we made, which is a very application-specific cross-environment, cross-cloud monitoring tool. Again, a lot of the stuff that we had previously, like VROps is a good monitoring tool, but it's kind of infrastructure focused. It's aware of virtual machines and virtual machine performance, and you can do a lot of cool things with it if you really work on a lot of the integrations and stuff like that. But it's still kind of an infrastructure monitoring tool, not necessarily an application. Where this gets, as I'm clicking kind of through the demo here, the real nitty gritty of applications, and even more so than to the depth that I can even probably talk about. Because look at this graph.
That's one thing that caught my eye there. Twitter sentiment. That's pretty interesting.
Yeah. So, but yeah. So it's so you can go through, and this it goes right through the levels of in the app, what processes are taking memory, what fixed these things. You can see the developer pushed a code update and stuff like this. So this literally gets into the the depths of the application, and again across clouds. And I actually kind of want to try to find the screen here, and I think it's actually over here where we have. I think it's this one. Actually, I think I have it open here. I do have Wavefront open. So what I really like about integration, look at this. This is all of the inbuilt integrations that Wavefront has. This is stuff that you can just grab and dump into the whatever application to get it monitored appropriately by Wavefront, which to me is just kind of stunning that they have this much. By the way, I did raise with their team, and I think I forgot to send the email, but I gotta do it as I want to make sure that we move this box up to the featured, because I don't think we should have these ones down here. I think we should have these up here. But essentially the VMware Cloud on AWS integration is actually not really different than the vSphere one at this current time. But they are working hard on getting more stuff. But there's more questions to ask them next week. And I did have this plugged in, but I think we've blown up we blew up the SDDC that I had this connected to. So unfortunately we can't.
There's a question there on Twitch.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no, Wavefront is completely a SaaS offering. It is 100% SaaS. There is no on-prem Wavefront. You can use it to monitor on-prem, but it is 100% SaaS. And I don't actually know if there's any plans to make it non-SaaS. It's kind of the nature of the product is it's really built for, kind of monitoring applications cross-cloud. I guess it seems we'll see where the interest goes, but again, there's nothing to say that to stop you monitoring on-prem. But yes, currently it's all SaaS based now, as well as some of the other services that we're coming up with. As with everybody in the software industry, we're moving towards a SaaS based model as part of our offerings. So yeah, like it or lump it, it's all entirely SaaS based. But like I said, the guys next week will be able to answer whether or not that's something that they're looking at or thinking about coming next going forward. I don't want to steal too much of their thunder, so maybe we can move on to something else so that we can do that next week. And I'm surprised we actually don't have. So the other thing that we're working on is getting Cloud Health into this portal and getting Wavefront in here as well. So that's on us to work on. But Cloud Health is another really cool product we have as another acquisition. And it's what's replaced Cost Insight, even though we still have Cost Insight in here. But Cloud Health is what has replaced it now, essentially. Yeah, if there's any other demos anybody wants to look through, even Clement, if there's anything you want to see in here. One of the cool ones we had in here was, where is it? Maybe it's in the cloud migration. Yeah. So here is a good use case for good old VR ops. As much as I was kind of maybe bashing on a little bit earlier, there's actually a play button on here. I did not know that. This is a really good use for VR ops because a lot of us, a lot of customers, even though they may not be actively really using VR ops, a lot of them actually have it running because it's included in a lot of ELAs and such. And the nice thing about this is you can actually do a migration plan through it, and one of the big, really nice things about it is you can actually select the virtual machines that are actually running in your environment. So you can actually do this and select everything you want to move to the cloud. For this demo, I kind of wish that they would have followed along with that one, but in this demo, they actually showed off the configuring your own, so you can choose your own workload. So in this case, they said we have 100 VMs that got 2 vCPUs, 4 gigs of RAM, and 10 gigs of disk space, which doesn't apply to any customer I know, but then you click the run scenario button and it actually goes through and says you will need 4 hosts and this is going to be your utilization and this is actually going to be your cost. So you can actually do this, like I said, with your real VMs and actually do this analysis right out of the box. And you can actually go in and specify your discount because, as most of our customers, as with everything in life, very rarely do you actually pay retail. And so, there's discounts for the 1 and 3 year. There's discounts based upon what you've already spent on prem and a whole bunch of those kinds of things. So you can actually enter that and have that factored in. And it's not progressive.
It's very similar to the pricing tool on
it is. Actually, it's almost identical. But the nice thing about it is you could actually, if you've been using VROps, you can actually, let me kind of get there again and click my way through. You can actually do it based upon what you're running. So there's kind of not the guesswork of, all right, how many of this is, do I average it out or how much work do I got to do? This you could just go in here and, you can literally just hit select all.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. That's neat.
Right. And so to me, that's a major advantage of it. Again, if you're kind of been using, if you realize to operate VRLs off to do that for you. Really, you could, as long as you get the licenses for it and stuff like that, you could just install this for, let it run for a couple of weeks and then run this analysis. It'd be better the longer it runs, obviously, but, even it running for a couple of weeks and doing this will probably give you a better indicator what you need than just kind of throwing raw numbers at it. But yeah, so I think that's a major perk of running this. And actually, for everybody that doesn't know this, what if analysis has been in VROps for a long time. And I'm sure people that run VROps know this. We used to run this all the time for DR planning or try to convince customers anyway to do this for VRM planning for the exact same reason as you could actually select your workloads and ensure that they could actually run on your recovery site. But you could do the same thing here. You could do this if you're planning for DR and see what you would need in the event of an actual DR. So you can kind of have that in a budget item in case, we need DR, but, you can then use this configure to try to figure out the least amount of space you could have just to get the stuff in there. But yeah, that's kind of one of the cool things that's in there. This is actually a really cool demo. Anytime you're so the nice thing about this is when you're actually at the Cloud City booth is these are actually these massive touchscreen TVs essentially that we have that you can kind of click through and touch your way through all of the various scenarios. And they got a whole bunch of nicer graphics than kind of this plain looking screen. And actually, oddly enough, they have a 20. So for all those on, especially on Twitch and gamers, it has a 2080 in it, which to me is kind of amazing. Which is a very high-end video card to run touchscreen demos. But anyway, so yeah, was there anything you wanted to see in there?
No, I like the idea that you can actually select the VMs that are in your on-premises environment, and I'm assuming that it can integrate to pretty much any environment. So it'd be like from the one screen you'd be able to see your production environment and your development environment and all of that, and you can consolidate that into one plan, and it will show you, in the destination what sort of resourcing is required and the costs.
Yeah, cool. And I got to admit, I'm by no means a VR ops expert, but I would assume so because VR ops can collect information from numerous sources. So again, I'm making an assumption, but that's my understanding. And then the next step, of course, would be then to use Network Insight to do your network planning, which I think is a fantastic use for Network Insight. In fact, I'm kind of the belief that if you're really serious about running workloads in the cloud, if you're really serious about hybrid, I suppose, or even public cloud, to me, Network Insight is almost a must-have tool. Either that or VMware on-prem, same product, different delivery mechanisms, but with all of the complexities of networking in the hybrid world, from multiple on-premises data centers and office locations to multiple clouds, it gets really confusing really fast. And a tool such as this, I can't see where I'm supposed to click here, really assists in that troubleshooting. And not just troubleshooting, but I guess that design of network going forward. Where do you put firewall rules? I think that might be in a different demo here. Yeah, plan and manage networks. Because the visibility that Network Insight gives you into actually what's going on in your network is more than you'll ever get from talking probably to any network guy and or any application guy. It's just kind of the nature of the business, and this is a good one too because as Clement's probably finding out now, he's been the team for a little while. One of our most major headaches is the firewall rules. People are just used to having everything open, it seems. So anytime we're trying to connect anything into VMware Cloud and AWS, a lot of times we get a trouble ticket, and it's just like, well, did you open their on-prem firewall too? Oh, no. All right. It's actually funny to me that whoever did this demo apparently golfs at Woodbridge.
Matt, I'm just curious. With Wavefront, the offering or the SaaS offering that we have on VMware Cloud on AWS, are we able to configure it such that we can ingest on-premises sources?
Oh, absolutely. Cool. Yeah, Wavefront can grab from anywhere.
Not Wavefront, the Network Insight.
Oh, Network Insight. Yes, no, Network Insight can as well. Yeah, absolutely it can. Like I said, there's actually, from what I understand, there might be some enhancements in Network Insight that may not be in VNRI dependent, particular to VMware Cloud on AWS. But other than that, my understanding is these are essentially 100% the same product, just a different delivery mechanism.
Okay, cool. Because my thinking is that there are certain use cases where the customer is thinking about migrating a data center in its entirety from on-premises to VMware Cloud, and they often have legacy environments that they just don't understand the traffic patterns. In fact, there's a lot of legacy servers that in fact they don't even know what they do, and then to have an offering such as Network Insight coming from VMware Cloud on AWS, then they can ingest some of the data coming from the on-premises prior to that migration. So then they can program the firewall rules and so forth.
Absolutely.
When they move to destination.
Absolutely, that's what that demo walks through. I agree 1,000% that, and that's why I said I think that this is almost, and not that I want to be that guy either, but there's a 30-day free trial on the SaaS offering, as with all of our SaaS offerings, and like I said, to me, this is pretty much a must-have to do, at least like you said, on migration, even if you're pulling just even one application or all of them, because yeah, like you said, you've talked to the application guys, and I'm not trying to bash on application guys. This goes for everybody. It's, what does your server talk to? Oh, I only talk to this other server on 443. So you do that, and everything breaks because of all the other stuff, authentication, logging, another database on another server that they didn't know. There's just so much stuff that nobody knows, and this gives you a really nice, quick look at it. And I was going to look at it actually on our side, but I just remembered we deleted our SDDC that I had this connected to. So this demo kind of shows here. It actually shows a little bit more traffic. What tiers, who's talking to what. You can even go down to the group by a specific VM and see where it all talks. You can see here where things are going, and yeah, you can plan those firewall rules. You can ensure that you actually move all of the pieces of the application, preferably at the same time, to mitigate any kind of issues and know what you're getting at. And then the other great use of this too is that when it's done, then you can, and you have issues, this can actually help you try to figure out exactly. And like I said, I wish this was kind of working, but you could actually do pathings to see where a specific VM, I don't think this is going to work, but the path topology of it and potentially where it's broken. And ours is broken because that SDC doesn't exist anymore. But it's even a troubleshooting tool. So like I said, I can't talk more positively about how important, this kind of tooling is in that cloud world.
Yeah, I've seen that topology diagram before. When it's working, it's you're able to see the entire path from a VM to VM, and then you're able to drill into each component and have a look at the port that it's connected on, the switch, the host that it's talking to and from, and so forth. So yeah, that's extremely useful.
Yeah, no, you're 100% right. It's unfortunate I can't show it. I don't think any of these demos actually show it either, but we did do a Network Insight demo, and maybe it's time for another to bring those guys back in. I think we did that back in January, so it's up on the YouTube for anybody that's curious to kind of a more deep dive around it. But like I said, I'll reconnect this tomorrow. But yeah, like Clement was saying that there actually is like a diagram it puts on here that actually shows you all of the virtual and physical components that it hops through. So it's like I said, absolutely, completely useful tool. And again, it's a SaaS offering, so you can use it and say, okay, I don't want to use it anymore. You can then, and then all of a sudden something happens, you can turn it back on again. You might not have all the data you need. As with all, monitoring tools, the more data it has, the better the results are. And another thing that's kind of nice with this too, and again, I can't really show it off here, but you can see here that there is a top talkers. So, if you get this massive bill from AWS at the end of the day saying you owe X amount of dollars for, all of this egress traffic, you can actually go and find out who the offender is. You may not be able to do much about it, but at least you can, let them know how much they're costing the company and or try to put a stop to it, I suppose. But it's, I think it's an absolute fantastic tool, and we're looking at further integrations for that, and for it to go into some costing type things. So again, the future is wide open. One of the other things that I suppose we should touch upon here in the last little bit is that the R5 hosts have been announced as generally available, which is exciting news. So that's our EBS backed hosts that have more storage capacity, little slower, but definitely more capacity. So depending on your use case, could definitely fit more for what you're looking for, depending. And I think that's only in a few of our data centers right now. I don't know if it's across the board.
Yeah, that's of huge interest to me, Matt, because one of my customers here is exactly wanting that host or that data storage for their VMs, because I guess a lot of their applications are data heavy. And in the interim, whilst we're waiting for R5, the intention was to create volume gateways to consume S3 storage in the back end. But yeah, once we have R5, it's going to be a whole neater solution for them. And
Yeah, it looks like I'm just looking at the announcement now. It's in Oregon, North Virginia, Ohio, and Frankfurt currently. So I'm not exactly sure when it's going to get out to your side of the world, but I'm sure it's high on the agenda. Um, and not to deflect blame or anything like this, but some of this depends on AWS's ability to deliver this as well. I think if it was completely up to us, we'd have R5 available for everybody across the board because, as you mentioned, Clement, I have customers as well that are very keen on getting this solution, and I gotta be honest, I don't think running VMs on S3 is going to be a very good thing.
also, what the plan was to there's a it's an interim solution, I understand, but one of the thoughts were to install a volume gateway such that in the back end, it looks like it presents itself as an iSCSI target internally to VMC, and then from that, it uses actually the data from or the actual storage from S3 as the back end overhaul. But yeah, it presents it to a VM as iSCSI, which is an interesting solution. But of course, if we had the R3 available to us, yeah, that certainly would be the way that we would go.
Yeah, and we are working extremely hard as much as we can on making not just R5 available, but multiple different host types available across every region. So stay tuned, and hopefully we can have good updates in the future for everybody because we like I said, we understand different use cases, and a lot of customers currently now are fairly storage constrained on capacity. I mean, we have performance for basically any workload I can think of, but or any enterprise workload I can think of anyway. But yeah, the capacity, it's coming. It's coming. I guess that's unfortunately the best answer we can kind of give there
Yep.
at this time. But it's top of mind for all of us. But thankfully for those of us in North America and the Frankfurt regions, it's available today. Well, actually yesterday. And our M7 release is coming here in a couple of weeks as well, which is going to bring some new features and functions that we'll cover in another session. So that was about all I wanted to talk about. Now, Clement, you mentioned that you went to this AWS event. Did you want to maybe talk about that for a little bit, or maybe
Yeah, sure.
some of your impressions?
That was really good. We had quite a lot of people attend the AWS Summit in Sydney, here down at the ICC, if you know Sydney well. There was a lot of people. We had a booth there that we had set up for VMware Cloud on AWS. We were pretty much a diamond sponsor, so we were right in the thick of it, where all the foot traffic is. And yeah, it was a lot of interest. What was surprising to me that a lot of customers weren't aware of what exactly VMware Cloud on AWS was. So a lot of those conversations were quite, just at least just to understand what the service offering is. But yeah, I think we spoke to quite a few people and got them thinking, and at least they know that there's that option for them to, if they're an existing vSphere customer, it really just makes sense for them to consider VMC. If they need storage for data center extension or whatever it might be for a DevOps environment. Yeah, it's there. So for us, it was pretty much an education exercise for a lot of our customers there on that summit itself, being an AWS summit. But yeah, it was good. I had a lot of fun there.
Well, that's pretty cool. Like I said, I also get excited with the the integrations and stuff, and the partnership with AWS, because yeah, as you kind of mentioned, I think it extends beyond, we just use some of their hardware in a data center. We are jointly working on a lot of offerings together, and it's kind of, like we talked about at the beginning, it's really bringing that hybrid cloud world of all these cool things everywhere, available. So to me, that's exciting, and I guess yeah, maybe because I'm a nerd,
Yeah.
but
Yeah, 100%. And another thing that I guess I should mention is that not a lot, but some of our customers, even some that are existing vSphere customers, and they're looking to, what we were talking about, maybe refactoring or bringing their applications to the latest type, of microservices and so forth, basically modernizing their application. A few of them have come to me and asked, when we use VMware Cloud on AWS, is it just kind of a lift and shift? And is it like an interim solution for us to go to native cloud? And the answer to that is absolutely no, because and that's the reason why it's really good when you talk about these in these sessions, Matt, all the SaaS offerings that we have that allow you to modernize your application, and it's not really just a transitional environment for vSphere users to move to a public cloud. Um, when you're there, it gives you the option to be able to lift and shift. I mean, yes, that's really just a phase one part of the migration, but then from that point onwards, you have all the SaaS offerings such as what we were talking about, Cloud PKS, and uh, what Matt spoke about with Wavefront, Cloud Health, and all those capabilities, and CAS as well is another really big SaaS offering that we have. And it's not really just an interim environment for people to move to while they're modernizing their application. I guess that's a key point that it would be good for all of our customers to understand.
yeah, we're not your father's VMware anymore. To
Absolutely, yeah.
kind of be facetious about it, but uh, no, I think that's absolutely amazing point, and yeah, I talk about that to anybody that listens when I go to the VMugs, and it sounds like you're doing it as well. Everybody in our group can do this. Yeah, it's definitely, we're moving towards like the industry with all these SaaS offerings. Not forgetting the on-prem. It's good to highlight that we still have our strong on-prem offerings. We'll continue to develop those, but those will also, there'll be a time when everything that's on-prem will be SaaS, and SaaS is on-prem, and you just will choose how to consume it, which to me is a fantastic way to be. Either you could choose to own it and deploy it in your own data center, or just let us have the hassle of managing it, and you just pay us monthly for it. So the future is there.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, we have a lot of cloud offerings, and yeah, a little bit surprising. Last week, a customer actually came up and actually asked, "Oh, you guys are VMware, do you do anything in the cloud?" I was like, "Come over here, let me show you." It's like, I guess it's really just an educational thing at the moment that we really need to promote some of these great offerings that we have.
Agreed. Couldn't agree more. And I think a lot of that's going to be, doing exactly what you were doing at events where kind of that audience that's used to, and I guess it's kind of a weird thing for us that's been around the industry, or I guess maybe anyway, or, getting kind of old now, that, VMware was the only name in the game for a long time. Now there's a whole generation of people that, especially probably developers, that have only ever known AWS. So it's good to kind of get out there and definitely converse with them about the offerings, and I think that there's a lot of stuff that's definitely attractive out there for them. But you're doing good work out there in your region to show what we got out there, and again, to work with this in a partnership with AWS. We're not trying to steal their business. They do a lot of things really, really well. But we can make sure that we make it easier for you to work with existing workloads or develop new workloads that work alongside those. And you can actually pick the best in breed for, kind of got to use a catchphrase of the industry, but, put the workload where it makes sense. and now that could be all in a VMware VM construct, so you don't have to worry about it working. You can just drop it wherever it needs to be to get to the services it needs. So,
yep. Yeah, we definitely are working very closely with AWS. Last week when we presented, it was a co-presentation between AWS solutions architects and ourselves. So that relationship is definitely there. And the fact that with the recent announcement that AWS is able to resell the VMware Cloud on AWS services, that's also a testament to that partnership.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Thank you for mentioning that, because that's an important thing too. Is that I think it was a couple VM worlds ago, and I can't remember this, but there was the mantra was the and, not the or. And that's really what I feel like we're at here too. Is we have AWS and VMware. It doesn't have to have AWS or VMware. Have both. Have some Azure too. We understand that this is what our customers are going to do, but make your life easy by running it in the same relative construct that you can move it around if need be. I think that's kind of our main pitch now is, run it in those clouds. That's fine, but you can run it on the VMware stack and the VMware construct, even with Kubernetes running in VMware virtual machines, so that these things are just super portable around with all the NSX rules and constructs, and to make your life easier, as opposed to, and I talk about this in my VMUG talks about, the silos used to be the server team, the network team, and the storage team, and no one ever talked to each other. Now the silos are the AWS team, the Azure team, and the VMware team. And they don't talk to each other. And now they're starting to talk to each other. As I'm sure you found with your customers, Clement, that, so many of my customers were like, I never knew that we had a whole group that looked after AWS stuff till I fired up this VMware Cloud and AWS stuff and asked for an account. And then all of a sudden, now I know this whole other world that was out there, and now we're working together. So.
Definitely. Yeah, we when we speak to our customers, we often have representatives both from VMware and AWS together working on a solution for them. So, yeah, we definitely are working together.
Cool. Well, I think we're coming up to the top of the hour here. Clement, thank you very much for joining me and adding your perspective and knowledge to the conversation.
Thanks for having me, and it's great to talk to you.
Yeah, I love doing these things, so I'll keep doing them until. Even if no one starts watching, I'll still probably just sit here and talk to myself, because I love talking about this stuff. But yeah, so like I said, have some going forward stuff. I mentioned the Wavefront webinar on Tuesday, 7 p.m. PST. What time is it in Sydney?
Just coming to 1 p.m.
1 p.m. So it'll be at noon on Tuesday in Sydney, which I think is then 10 o'clock in Tokyo, and 8:30 or 7:30 in Bangalore. I can't remember which way that half hour goes in Bangalore. Regardless, that'll be the time that we have the Wavefront guys on to demo some stuff. We'll be back again next week for the APJ office hours at the same time. We'll have the Americas office hours on Tuesday at the regular time as well. Like I said, we're dropping off the EMEA ones for the time being, just to not flood with too many sessions and stuff like that, to run out of cool and fun stuff to talk about with people. We want to make sure that we give you guys the opportunity to come and chat with us. Like it was great that Rick popped into the Twitch chat. You're more than welcome to drop into that, or we could forward out the Zoom invite. There's lots of options. Make sure you leverage us. Check out the YouTube. We have all of our old webinars and office hours up there. If you're looking for particular information, the last one was actually about CAS, talking about some of our SaaS offerings. So our VMware Cloud Assembly was done by our fantastic team Candy, Mandy and Kim. That was a name they gave themselves, just to preface. I did not give them that name. They even have T-shirts and everything. So I didn't start that, but they did a great video that's up on YouTube right now. So we're going to do. Next is going to be Wavefront. The 2 weeks after that, we're going to talk a little bit about our VCPP, which is our VMware Cloud Provider Program. VMware Cloud Partner Provider. Anyway, our partner area of our vCloud business, which includes VMC, as well as other developed partner clouds. And then the week after that, we're trying to put together some probably an M7 release chat. Then a couple weeks after that, we're going to be looking at doing a little bit of a deep dive on deploying Oracle workloads on VMware Cloud and AWS. So we have quite a few full agenda coming for webinars coming. Still feel free to suggest anything, but we're definitely filling up the pipe with a lot of cool stuff to try to get as much information out there to everybody. And I thank everybody for their time. I thank everybody for watching on Twitch and Zoom and or via YouTube. And I'll look forward to seeing everybody next week. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Matt.